Good evening, welcome. The Public Prosecution Service has defended its decision to prosecute a former soldier for a Troubles-related crime, saying it was in the public interest. 80-year-old Dennis Hutchings died yesterday after contracting COVID-19. He was 2 weeks into his trial in Belfast. The charge was the attempted murder of John Pat Cunningham, a 27-year-old man with learning difficulties who was shot in the back as he ran away from an army patrol. Our Home Affairs correspondent Julian O'Neill reports.
The trial of Dennis Hutchings was due to last 4 weeks. Now it's as good as over without a verdict. He had major health problems and in an interview with BBC News at the outset of the trial spoke of what he viewed as an injustice against him and other veterans investigated over Troubles killings.
My consultant has given me roughly 6 months to live with the problems I've got. So that's why I want to get this done before I die.
You want to see your name cleared?
It's not my name just being cleared, it's the whole system, which is wrong.
Dennis Hutchings had denied attempting to murder 27-year-old John Pat Cunningham, a man with the mental age of a child who was afraid of men in uniform. He was an innocent, unarmed man, shot in the back as he ran away from a patrol in Benburb in 1974. Although police suspected Dennis Hutchings fired the fatal shot, he could not be charged with murder because ballistic evidence did not exist. The family of John Pat Cunningham issued a statement through their solicitors in which they said they would not be giving interviews. The statement went on to say there had been no proper investigation into the shooting until recently. It went on to refute inaccurate claims made by some politicians and sections of the British media concerning the prosecution of Dennis Hutchings. It concluded much of their reaction is framed by the fact the victim was an Irish Catholic and one who posed no threat whatsoever. Unionists claim today the case should not have been brought, including on the grounds of the military veterans' health. But the PPS defended its approach in a detailed statement. It said a police investigation presented evidence in 2015 which was not previously available. It is generally in the public interest to prosecute when the charge is as serious as attempted murder. High Court judges had ruled the evidence was sufficient to proceed to trial, and Dennis Hutchings was made the offer to appear in court via video link without having to come to Belfast. There will now follow legal formalities which will end this trial. The outcome is to the satisfaction of none of those at its heart: Dennis Hutchings, who wanted his name cleared, and the family of John Pat Cunningham, who wanted justice. Julian O'Neill, BBC Newsline, Belfast.
Unionist politicians have criticised the decision to prosecute Dennis Hutchings and said the Public Prosecution Service has questions to answer. It comes as relatives of Troubles victims were in London today, lobbying politicians in their campaign against the government's legacy proposals. Our political editor, Enda McClafferty, reports.
What now for the government's legacy plans? That's the question victims and politicians were asking in London today. They were there to present a united front against the government proposal to end Troubles-related prosecutions and investigations prior to 1998. But Dennis Hutchings' death is likely to increase pressure from Tory backbenchers on the Prime Minister to press ahead with his plan and prevent further veterans ending up in court.
I think it's a disgrace if any political party tries to use that. Boris Johnson says it's not working for victims, this process. The justice system, him and his government have stopped it from working.
The DUP is also worried about the government's legacy plans, but the party leader has questions too for the Public Prosecution Service. Specifically,
was there new and compelling evidence that justified taking this case forward to trial? And secondly, was it in the public interest to do so? And I think those are reasonable questions, and the family and Dennis's comrades are entitled to the answer to that.
Those same questions were also posed at Stormont today as MLAs reflected on Dennis Hutchings' death.
What was the justification and the basis for dragging him before the courts?
I dispute the fact that this was not in the public interest and indeed I'm not aware of the level of evidence, but it clearly met the very high threshold set for prosecution by the PPS, and that's why it went to trial.
And some will say, well, that's in the public interest, and some will say, well, in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Well, it's not hindsight, because the case was made. The case was made that this would have a detrimental effect on his health, and as we saw, it did.
Others, though, were mindful of the Cunningham family and their long wait for justice.
My message today will be very straightforward to the British Government. Get on with implementing the Stormont House Agreement. Find a way to allow families to have closure, to deal with the past in an adequate way.
But there was no sign of the government changing course today. It says it's standing by its commitment to Northern Ireland veterans as part of a wider package on legacy, focusing on reconciliation and ending the cycle of investigations. And that's not what victims or indeed politicians want to hear. Enda McClafferty, BBC Newsline, Stormont.
24 children in Northern Ireland with confirmed or suspected cancers have had to wait over a year to see a consultant. The figure is revealed in a review of child health waiting lists by the Commissioner for Children and Young People and applies to April this year. It's also been revealed that more than 17,000 children had to wait more than a year to see a consultant for the first time.
It impacts on everyone in the family, no matter how hard parents try. It impacts on them being able to have what we all call a normal family life, and that's why these figures are so scary.
I'm very surprised that that number of children have had to wait so long to see a paediatrician. You know, I know that my colleagues will be equally shocked at that waiting time.
Well, in response to that report, the Health Minister Robin Swan said his department and the wider social care system will carefully consider the recommendations. He added, addressing waiting lists is a top priority. The man who was found murdered at a flat in Magherafelt yesterday was 62-year-old Brian Coulter. His body was discovered at lunchtime in the property in Sandy Braes. A man arrested nearby on suspicion of murder is still in custody. Detectives have appealed for anyone who saw Mr. Coulter since last Monday to contact them. A murder investigation has begun after a 23-year-old man died following an assault in Portadown early on Sunday. The man who died in hospital was Jake Bailey Sloan from the town. The police say he was attacked outside a pub. Detectives are questioning a 22-year-old man. Officials in the Irish government will resume discussions in the morning on their plans for how to reopen the late-night entertainment industry there. It was due to start from this Friday. A revised plan includes the return of normal trading hours in bars and restaurants. However, some in the industry say they want more clarity at this late stage.
Confusion reigns in the licensed trade right now. We're totally confused about the criteria for reopening. We don't have any guidelines for the reopening of the nightclub sector and their operational, how they'll operate. So it's an appalling situation. We're calling on the government to publish those guidelines immediately.
Let's get the weather now. Here's Barra Best.
Hello there. It's going to be largely dry through tonight, but it's also going to be a colder night. We have a lot of clear sky in the forecast. In some countryside areas, temperatures could dip to around the mid-single figures, a little bit higher in the towns and cities, especially towards the east. So tomorrow we get off to a bright start with some good amounts of sunshine and overall largely dry but a cooler day. Later on in the morning we could see cloud thickening up at times towards the County Down coast, which could give a little bit of rain, but many other places will stay dry. And through lunchtime tomorrow the more unsettled conditions will be across parts of England and Wales with scattered showers and some rain too for northern and western areas of Scotland. But across Ireland tomorrow at lunchtime a mainly dry picture with some sunshine. It will be a cooler feeling day with a westerly breeze, temperatures around 12 or 13 degrees at best. Tomorrow evening the winds pick up and we have this weather front which is going to sink its way south, bringing us some rain tomorrow night. That'll clear, and behind it we have cold air which will begin to come in from the north. So it's going to be a much chillier day on Thursday, and we can expect some gales too, especially for coastal areas. So on Thursday, top temperatures around 10 to 12 degrees. Factor in those winds around the coast, it'll feel cooler than that. The wind's not as strong going into the weekend, but at times it will be unsettled and it will be cooler.
Well, coming up next here on BBC One, Spotlight investigates the illicit flow of puppies through Northern Ireland to Great Britain. But from us for now, good night.